Once upon a time there was a little boy called Silly Billy. The sky had turned the color of dishwater, not stormy, not dramatic, just a dull, drizzly gray that made everything feel a little slower. Silly Billy stood at the window, his nose pressed flat against the glass, leaving a foggy circle that grew with each sigh. Outside, the rain fell in soft, steady rhythms, like 1,000 tiny fingers tapping on the roof. It wasn't the wild kind of rain that made puddles splash and boots bounce. It was the quiet kind. The boring kind. Billy's red umbrella leaned by the door, drooping slightly, as if it too had given up hope. Its curved handle rested against the wall, and its fabric, still damp from yesterday's adventures, hung limp and lifeless. Billy glanced at it, then back at the garden. The grass was soaked, the flowers hunched over like sleepy heads, and the muddy patch near the fence had turned into a squelchy mess. No puddle jumping today. He pressed his forehead to the glass and whispered, "Maybe tomorrow." But even he didn't believe it. Inside the house, everything was too quiet. The ticking clock sounded louder than usual, and the radiator hummed like a tired bee. Billy wandered from room to room, dragging his socks across the carpet, hoping something exciting might happen. But the toys were still where he'd left them, the books had all been read, and the biscuits were down to crumbs. He returned to the window, this time standing on tiptoes to get a better view. A single bird flapped past, soggy and unimpressed. Billy waved, just in case it needed cheering up. It didn't wave back. The umbrella caught his eye again. It was a good umbrella, bright red, with scalloped edges and a handle that fit perfectly in his hand. It had been with him through windy walks and splashy strolls. It had twirled like a dancer and shielded him like a knight's shield. But today, it just sat there, looking as glum as he felt. Billy reached out and gave it a gentle pat. "Sorry, umbrella," he said. "No adventures today." But even as he said it, something stirred inside him, a tiny flicker of curiosity, like the first bubble in a pot of soup. What if the rain wasn't just boring? What if it was waiting for something? What if the umbrella wasn't sad, but patient? Billy looked out again. The rain was still falling, but now it seemed to whisper. Not words exactly, but something close. A rhythm. A possibility. He didn't know it yet, but the day was about to change. The rain hadn't stopped, but it had changed. It wasn't falling straight anymore, it danced sideways, flicked by a mischievous wind that had crept in from somewhere far away. Billy stood at the doorway, one hand on the frame, the other tucked behind his back. He wasn't supposed to open the door when it was raining, but rules felt bendable when the world outside started whispering. He didn't step out. Not yet. He just leaned forward, letting the breeze tickle his cheeks and ruffle his hair. It smelled like wet grass and something else, something fizzy, like the air before a surprise. His red umbrella stood beside him, still closed, still sulking. Billy gave it a sideways glance. "I just want to feel it," he said softly, as if the umbrella might object. Then it happened. Whoosh! The wind didn't knock, it barged in like a wild guest at a quiet party. It curled around the umbrella, tugged at its fabric, and with a sudden, cheeky yank, lifted it clean off the ground. Billy gasped. The umbrella spun once, twice, then shot upward like it had somewhere very important to be. "Wait, come back!" Billy shouted, lunging forward. His fingers wrapped around the curved handle just in time. But the umbrella didn't stop. It didn't wobble or hesitate. It soared. Billy's boot skidded across the muddy patch as the umbrella pulled him forward, then upward. His heart thumped like a drum in a parade. He should have let go. He knew that. But something inside him, something brave and curious, told him to hold on tight. The garden blurred beneath him. The fence shrank. The flowers became tiny dots. Billy's feet left the ground. He was flying. Not falling. Not floating. Flying. The umbrella didn't flap or struggle. It knew exactly what it was doing. It tilted slightly to the left, then dipped to the right, catching the wind like a kite with a secret. Billy clung to the handle, legs dangling, eyes wide, mouth open in a mix of terror and delight. The rooftops came into view, chimney pots, slanted tiles, and the occasional startled pigeon flapping away in a flurry of feathers. Billy laughed, cheeks puffed with wind, hair sticking out in every direction. "I think we're flying," he shouted, though there was no one to hear him but the umbrella. And maybe the umbrella did hear. Maybe it gave a little extra twirl, just to show off. Billy looked down. The garden was a memory now, a patch of green and brown far below. The rain had stopped chasing him. The wind had become a friend, and the umbrella, well, the umbrella had become something else entirely. It wasn't just a tool anymore. It was a ticket. A key. A companion. Billy didn't know where they were going. He didn't know how long it would last. But he knew one thing for certain: he was glad he hadn't stayed inside. Billy had never flown before. Not in a plane, not in a dream, not even in one of those supermarket trolleys when Dad gave him a push and said, "Hold tight." This was different. This was real. And it was happening fast. The rooftops zipped past below like a patchwork quilt stitched by a hurried hand, red tiles, grey slates, chimney pots puffing out little clouds of smoke. Billy's boots dangled in the air, toes pointing down, soles still speckled with garden mud. He clung to the umbrella's handle with both hands now, knuckles pale, heart thudding like a drum in a marching band. The wind whooshed around him, tugging at his overalls, puffing up his striped shirt like a balloon. His cheeks were pink from the rush, his hair sticking out in every direction like a dandelion caught midwish, and his eyes, wide, sparkling, alive, took in everything. A pigeon flapped past, startled and indignant, as if to say, "This is my sky, thank you very much." Billy laughed, a sound that tumbled out of him like a bubble escaping a bottle. The umbrella dipped slightly, then rose again, catching a new gust like it had wings of its own. "I think we're flying," he shouted, though no one was there to hear it but the clouds. And the clouds were listening. They drifted closer, soft and slow, like giant pillows floating in a lazy parade. Billy reached out a hand, brushing against one. It was cooler than he expected, damp and feathery, like the breath of a sleeping dog. The umbrella tilted again, this time more gently, as if it too wanted to touch the sky. Below, the streets had shrunk to squiggles. Cars looked like beetles. People were dots. Billy felt a strange mix of smallness and bigness all at once, like he was part of something enormous, but also the center of it. The umbrella gave a little twirl, just for fun. Billy giggled, legs kicking in midair. He wasn't scared anymore. Not even a little. The wind had become a friend, the sky a playground, and the umbrella, well, the umbrella was clearly enjoying itself. They passed over a park where swings swayed in the breeze and ducks waddled near a pond. Billy waved, just in case someone looked up. No one did. But that didn't matter. This wasn't about being seen. This was about seeing. The clouds parted slightly, revealing a stretch of blue so deep it made Billy gasp. It was the kind of blue you only find in crayon boxes and bedtime stories. The umbrella soared higher, catching the light in its red fabric, casting a soft glow on Billy's face. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the wind carry him. He didn't know where they were going. He didn't care. The world below could wait. Right now, he was somewhere else, somewhere better. And somewhere up ahead, the clouds were beginning to change. The cloud wasn't just mist. It wasn't just fluff. It was something else entirely, soft as cotton, cool as a whisper, and thick enough to feel like stepping into a dream. As Billy and the umbrella drifted into its folds, the world outside faded into a gentle hush. The wind quieted. The rooftops disappeared. Even the sound of rain seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. Billy blinked. Everything was white, not blank, not empty, but glowing. The kind of white that shimmered with hints of blue and gold, like sunlight caught in a snowflake. The umbrella slowed, its red canopy casting a warm glow around them. Billy's boots brushed against something solid, yet soft. He looked down. A cloud. A real one. Not the kind you see from the ground and imagine jumping into. This one held him. Cradled him. like a giant pillow floating in the sky. He stepped off the umbrella gently, half expecting to fall through. But the cloud held firm, springy underfoot, like sponge cake or marshmallow. Billy giggled and bounced once, just to be sure. Then he looked around. There, nestled in the folds of the cloud, was a tiny tea party, a round cloud table puffed up from the surface, its edges scalloped like whipped cream. On top sat a delicate teapot, pale blue, with a handle shaped like a curl of wind. 3 matching teacups rested beside it, each filled with a shimmering liquid that looked like melted raindrops. Steam rose in lazy spirals, scented faintly of mint and something sweet. And seated around the table, with perfect posture and polite expressions, were 3 cloud bunnies. They weren't ordinary rabbits. Their fur was the color of fresh snow, their ears long and slightly translucent, and their eyes soft and kind. Each held a biscuit, round, golden, and impossibly crisp for something found inside a cloud. Billy stared, mouth slightly open. "Would you like a biscuit?" one of the bunnies asked, its voice gentle and clear, like a bell rung far away. Billy nodded, too enchanted to speak. He sat down on a puff beside the table, legs crossed, boots leaving tiny muddy prints on the cloud. The bunny passed him a biscuit, and he took it with both hands, nibbling the edge. It tasted like sunshine and cinnamon. No one rushed. No one asked questions. The bunnies sipped their tea, ears twitching occasionally, and Billy watched the steam curl into shapes, umbrellas, raindrops, even a tiny boot. He laughed softly. The umbrella rested nearby, its handle upright, its canopy slightly tilted as if listening in. Billy reached out and gave it a pat. "Thanks for bringing me here," he whispered. The cloud shimmered in response, a ripple of light passing through its surface. Somewhere above, the sky began to shift, hints of color peeking through the white. A rainbow, maybe. Or the next part of the journey. Billy finished his biscuit and leaned back, arms behind him, gazing upward. He didn't know how long they'd stay. He didn't know what came next. But for now, he was content. Tea with bunnies inside a cloud? That wasn't something you found in books. That was something you lived. And Billy was living it. The sky had changed again. It wasn't grey or white or even blue, it was a swirl of color, like someone had spilled a box of chalks across the clouds. Billy blinked against the brightness, his cheeks flushed from the wind, his hand still gripping the umbrella's curved handle. But now, the umbrella wasn't just flying. It was dancing. It began with a gentle twirl, a slow, graceful spin that made Billy's boots swing outward and his overalls flutter like flags. The umbrella dipped, then rose, then dipped again, catching the wind in perfect rhythm. Billy laughed, a bubbling sound that echoed through the sky. "This is better than puddles," he shouted, voice full of wonder. The umbrella responded with a loop, a wide, sweeping arc that curved through the air like a ribbon. Billy's stomach flipped, but not in a scary way. It was the kind of flip you get on a swing at its highest point, when the world feels both far away and right beneath you. They soared through a rainbow. Not just past it, through it. The colors wrapped around them like scarves in the wind. Red brushed Billy's boots, orange tickled his fingertips, yellow warmed his cheeks, green whispered past his ears, blue cooled his nose, and violet shimmered in his hair. Each color left behind a trail of sparkles, tiny flecks of light that danced in the air like fireflies. Billy reached out, trying to catch one. It landed on his palm and vanished with a soft pop, leaving behind a tingle that made him giggle. The umbrella twirled again, faster this time, like a ballerina mid-performance. It dipped low, then soared high, then spun in a corkscrew that made Billy whoop with delight. His legs kicked in rhythm, his arms stretched wide, and his heart felt like it was glowing. Below them, the clouds watched in silence. Above them, the sun peeked through, casting golden light across the scene. The umbrella caught the light, its red fabric glowing like a lantern in the sky. Billy closed his eyes for a moment, letting the wind carry him. He felt weightless, fearless, free. The umbrella wasn't just a tool anymore, it was a partner. A performer. A friend. They danced together. Not with music, but with movement. Not with steps, but with swoops and spins and joyful leaps through the sky. Billy didn't need a stage. He had the clouds. He didn't need an audience. He had the wind. And the wind applauded. It lifted them higher, gave them space, wrapped around them like a hug. Billy laughed again, louder this time, and the umbrella gave one final twirl, slow, elegant, perfect. Then, gently, it began to descend. The rainbow faded behind them. The sparkles drifted away. The sky softened, the colors dimmed, and the clouds parted to reveal the world below. Billy looked down and saw his garden, familiar, muddy, waiting. But he wasn't sad. He was full. Full of joy, full of wonder, full of the kind of memory that stays tucked in your heart forever. And the umbrella? It didn't droop. It didn't sag. It glided, proud and steady, ready to land. The sky had softened. The rainbow had faded into a pale shimmer, and the clouds had thinned like breath on a cold window. Billy felt the change before he saw it, a gentle tug downward, a shift in the wind's mood. The umbrella, once wild and twirling, now glided with purpose, its red canopy steady and calm. Billy looked down. The garden was coming back into view, familiar, muddy, and wonderfully ordinary. The wooden fence stood like a sleepy sentinel, the flowers nodded in the breeze, and the puddles shimmered with leftover rain. It was the same garden he'd left behind, but it felt different now. Smaller, maybe. Quieter. Or maybe Billy had grown bigger in the sky. The umbrella dipped lower, its handle still snug in Billy's grip. His boots dangled just above the grass, toes twitching with anticipation. The wind gave one last playful swirl, lifting a few leaves into a spiral before settling into a hush. Then, with a soft thump, Billy landed. Not with a crash. Not with a splash. Just a gentle touch, boots meeting mud, knees bending slightly, arms still wrapped around the umbrella's handle. He stood there for a moment, letting the feeling settle. The ground was solid. The air was damp. The adventure was over? No. Not over. Just paused. Billy looked at the umbrella. It stood upright beside him, its red fabric glistening with tiny droplets, its curved handle still warm from his grip. He reached out and gave it a pat. "Thanks for the ride," he whispered. The umbrella didn't answer, but it didn't need to. It had done its job. It had lifted him, twirled him, danced with him through clouds and color. It had shown him something bigger than puddles and rainy sighs. Billy turned toward the house. The window still had his foggy nose print. The door stood open, just as he'd left it. Inside, the clock ticked, the radiator hummed, and the biscuits were still crumbs. But Billy didn't rush in. He stayed in the garden, boots sinking slightly into the mud, eyes scanning the sky. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, soft, rhythmic, almost musical. It tapped on the umbrella, on the fence, on the leaves. Billy tilted his head, listening. He didn't feel bored anymore. He felt full. Full of clouds and color and wind. Full of biscuits and bunnies and ballet. Full of something he couldn't quite name, but knew he'd carry with him. The umbrella leaned slightly, as if tired. Billy picked it up and carried it to the porch, resting it gently against the wall. It looked proud. And maybe, just maybe, a little smug. Billy smiled. Tomorrow might be sunny. Or stormy. Or something in between. But whatever it was, he knew one thing: rainy days would never be boring again.